Today we're actually going to talk about the legend of Bloody Mary. And I don't know about you, but the first thing that I think of when I hear Bloody Mary is not the drink. I mean, no.
Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
I don't know, have you had a Bloody Mary? I've never had one of those, so leave some comments, if you've had them, if you like them, how to make those good, because that does not sound appetizing to me. If you're like me, the Bloody Mary story reminds me of the challenge that we used to do in the early 90s. Now, I don't know if, I say early 90s, I don't know if this happened before, if this was something that was before my time. I'm sure it was, but that's what we used to do in the early 90s. Get a buddy, go in front of the mirror, say her name 3 times, turn the lights out, light some candles, the spooky atmosphere. And of course you didn't do this alone because you were too scared to do that. Usually you were with a friend or a group of friends, because there was no way you were doing that crap alone.
Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary.
So I will admit, I did this as a kid, and I don't remember really what happened, to be honest. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember. So obviously it wasn't that monumental. As a high school history teacher here in my city, one of the things that I asked my students was, do you know who Bloody Mary is? Do you know this story? And yeah, none of them did. So there's a lot of debate about where the origin of Bloody Mary started. And so I'm not really going to get into like the 4 or 5 versions of it, because as with all urban legends, the origin is kind of shady, dark, gray, because it's kind of passed down from person to person. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with the one that talks about Mary of England, because that has been the most consensus of where the origin has started. So let's start with the beginning. Mary was the first daughter of King Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. She has a history of being known as one of the worst, most evil queens in all of history, not just England, but all of history. I mean, she was one bad bee. We want to put a disclaimer on here. We're going to be talking about religion, Catholics and Protestant, and so I just want to preface this by saying that how she acted as a Catholic and how others acted as Protestants doesn't coincide with the whole group of Catholics and the whole group of Protestants. So I'm not lumping all Catholics and all Protestants together in this story as that's how they all act or behave or believe. She just was a little different, and her background and her family life had a lot to do with it. So let's get started. So Mary was born Mary Tudor in 1516. Like I said, she was King Henry VIII's daughter, only surviving kid. Her mom was Catherine of Aragon, and at first, within the first few years of life, her life was amazing. As you can imagine, she's a princess, daddy's little princess, like literally had the world in her hand, had everything she could ask for, was well loved by both of her parents. But back in those days, it was preferred that kings have a son because they needed to carry on their lineage, so that their son can take over the throne. So that was a disadvantage, being a girl back in those days. But her mom, Catherine, said, you know what, we're just going to we're going to train you up just in case we don't have a boy. I'm going to teach you Latin, which was considered a man's language. And I don't really know why Latin is considered a man's language back then. I don't know why, oh, if you speak Latin, you're a man. I mean, who makes up these rules? But being a daughter of King Henry VIII, it did have some advantages. She was wanted by many suitors, even as a young age, because that would help them form alliances with the country of England, with King Henry VIII. So she had several suitors after her, not because she was loved or attractive. It was just like getting them ahead. It was like just a stepping stone. They were just using her to further their own agenda. None of these alliances or these suitors actually helped. They all fell through, and I think it was due to the fact that King Henry VIII was kind of busy doing his own thing, cheating on his wife, and he actually fell in love with another woman named Anne Boleyn. So yeah, he had a lot on his plate at this time. He wanted a divorce from Catherine, but back in those days, divorce was really frowned upon. Like, it wasn't something that you did. And being that England was a Catholic country at the time, the Catholics did not approve of him divorcing Catherine to marry Anne Boleyn. So he was like, you know what? I'll take matters into my own hand. I'm the king. I'm going to do what I want, and we'll see. Started a firestorm of changing the country of England from Catholic to Protestant, and this basically spiraled Mary's life out of control. I mean, it started like a chain of events of just unhappiness. She was just never happy again, and I think this is why she became such a revengeful, angry, bitter woman. Was the beginning of her fate at this point. The reason why Henry chose the Protestant religion to take over England was because they would approve his marriage to Anne Boleyn and his divorce from Catherine. So I don't think it was really about religion that he just necessarily believed in that. It was just, what do I need to do to get what I want? And this is what he chose. Now, Mary was a devout Catholic, and this really tested her faith. It really bothered her. She did not want to succumb to the Protestant religion or what her father said, and she felt like she was sacrificing her beliefs and who she was, just so her dad could have what he wanted. So it's documented at this time that she started menstruating. She was a young teenager, and she had a case of endometriosis. So, of course, back then they didn't know what this was, and there was no way to treat that. Today you can take medicine. It's mainly treated by surgery, but it kind of leaves you with intense pain, abnormally longer periods, more painful periods. But back then they didn't know what to do. They didn't know why. It left her bedridden, and then she had extreme anxiety and depression because of how painful and just intense these were. And as a young teenager with no answers, I can imagine how this felt. This was chronic and recurring. It wasn't just like happened once or twice. I mean, every month she would have this issue, and it didn't seem like anyone else was going through what she was going through. She felt very isolated, very alone. Her dad had ended up divorcing her mom and marrying Anne Boleyn, and she did not like her new stepmother, to say the least. Now that King Henry VIII was a newly married man in love with his fresh new young wife, he really didn't have anything to do with his daughter, Mary. He was over it. He wanted to act like she wasn't there. So with King Henry VIII and his new wife, he had a daughter, Elizabeth, so his second daughter, and he loved her more than Mary. She was considered beautiful, way more beautiful than Mary, and this is not my words. These are the historians' words and the words of those that lived back in the day. I am not about body shaming and judging women. Believe me, been there. But Mary was not considered a beautiful woman by those back in that time period. It was written down in several different documents. And Elizabeth was considered a more beautiful woman, and that also fueled her fire against Elizabeth, her jealousy, her rage. Not only did her mom get taken from her, her father got taken from her, and now Elizabeth just seemed like she just had everything that Mary didn't have, and it used to be hers. In 1536, after Elizabeth is born and her father gives her the cold shoulder and no one loves her and she's just having some daddy issues, her mom dies. I mean, this literally just threw her in the worst depression you could imagine. So she's lost her family. I mean, her father, obviously, her mom is dead, the one person that she just truly loved, that she could, rely on. And she just went into this deep, dark depression. And she just never recovered from that. After this, I mean, her dad has like no remorse, no sympathy whatsoever. He hands her a document and says, hey, sign this piece of paper. This piece of paper just says that, you're not legitimate. You have no right to the throne. I don't love you. I didn't love your mom. Our marriage was fake. And if you don't, I'm going to cut your head off in the guillotine. So, you really don't have a choice, because I want Elizabeth to take over whenever I die. So she did, but she held that in for a long time, because she felt like she had betrayed her mom, and she felt like she had betrayed herself and her country, because not only did she sign that piece of paper saying that her mom, their marriage wasn't real and she was, illegitimate, but that she had to give up her religion from Catholic to Protestant. So it just seemed like her dad was just making her become something that she didn't want to become, and give up everything that she believed in, like the real true stuff that, that creates you, that is who you are, your religion, your beliefs, your passion. And he was just taking that away from her. I mean, if this is not the definition of daddy issues, so now what we have is Henry VIII is, he's kind of tired of Anne Boleyn now. He accused her of cheating on him, which is so crazy because he was a little whore himself, just a little man whore, but yet she couldn't. So he had her executed, chopped off her head in the guillotine. So Anne Boleyn's gone. And this made Mary ecstatic. She was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be daddy's little girl again. My evil stepmother is gone. We're going to be a happy family. He's going to love me again. That didn't happen. Okay, so Mary, at this time, is still not married. She has no husband, no suitors. And it was due to the fact that her dad was busy getting wives and then discarding them like, laundry for the day. With one of his wives, he ended up having a son, finally, his, long lost male heir, and they named him Edward. And he lived 9 years before King Henry VIII died. So basically this knocked off Mary, knocked off Elizabeth to the heir to the throne. And so you got this little boy who's 9 years old, who's taking over a whole freaking country of England. 9 years old, and he's in charge of the whole country. So at age 15, so he was king for about 6 years, he died of tuberculosis. He was considered a very sickly child, very thin, very frail, not like a manly man by any means. And so this made Mary extremely happy. So she became queen in 1553 after her little brother died of tuberculosis. At this point, she was like, aha, I'm queen bee, and guess what I'm gonna do? I am going to make my country Catholic again. So no more Protestants. I'm over it. I'm gonna bring back my religion. Is that a song? Bring back my religion? I think that's a song. I'm gonna look that up. She is an angry, bitter woman at this time, and she seeks her revenge to all the people that made her last 25 years a living hell. And she really blamed it on the Protestants and basically her dad and everyone who believed the same thing he did. She gets a call from Spain. Actually, no, they didn't have phones back then. She probably got a letter. So she gets a letter from Spain. Spain is the original country from where her mom was. So she's got a few connections. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to connect with King Philip of Spain. Two, she was like madly in love with him. She just had the hots for him. She was infatuated with him, and he was Catholic, and it was her mother's country. So she was like, this is a match made in heaven. So she finally gets married. And Mary, thought, okay, this is my big break. I'm finally going to be happy. No, that didn't happen. She loved him. He didn't love her. Treated her like crap. Cheated on her with all the handmaids of the court. And basically told all of his friends, I'm really not attracted to her. She's not a beautiful woman. There's no chemistry. I just don't really want to be with her. I just married her to get in with England. It was an alliance thing. So yeah, I don't feel for her. Sorry. All of his friends. Told all of his friends. You know how buddies talk. Can this girl not catch a break? So the country of England, all the people started talking because she was having trouble getting pregnant. She was not producing an heir, and a lot of people think it was because of this, endometriosis thing that she had. It really causes a lot of fertility issues when you have this. So she went for years without getting pregnant. Philip was getting kind of anxious. Why do I not have an heir? England wanted an heir, and so she really just was devastated, depressed. So she did anything and everything that she could to get pregnant. Oh, it is said that she actually thought she was pregnant a couple times, but they say that it was what we call like a phantom pregnancy, and I had to look this up because I'd never even heard of this. But basically it's like you have all the signs of being pregnant, like your belly swells and you stop bleeding and whatever, but you're really not pregnant. And so it's like your way of, you want it so badly, and it's in your head that your body responds in a way that it mimics being pregnant. Is this a thing? I didn't know this was a thing. Back then, they didn't have ultrasounds, obviously, and so there was no way of actually detecting if she was pregnant or not. So like all they had to do was like wait and wait and wait, and no baby came ever. And so they realized, oh well, you're really not pregnant. And then this happened again like a few years later. At this time, the second time this happened, people stopped believing that she was actually pregnant, and they just like, oh whatever, it's just another rumor. Scientists also believe that maybe her belly swelled because it was a tumor, like she had a uterus tumor or ovarian tumor, and that could be another reason why she took on the image of being pregnant and maybe stopped bleeding because of this. So now she's angry. She's angry at life. She's angry at everyone. She's full of revenge, and she just starts murdering people, just burning people at the stake. If you're Protestant, if you denounce the Catholic Church and you're caught reading a Protestant Bible, she would just tie you up to the stake, just burn you. I mean, really. Pregnant women and put them on the stake and burn them. I mean, come on, Mary, that's a little extra. That's a lot extra. Why? This unnecessary. So she went on to just murder and murder and murder, and that's kind of where the background of her Bloody Mary story comes from. She ended up dying in 1558, and many believe that it was from ovarian cancer or uterine cancer. So when she died, her husband, King Philip, didn't even mourn her. He was like, I feel some kind of way, but not really. So her little sister took over at this point, and, Elizabeth is actually considered one of the best, if not the best queen of all of England, of all of history. She made it to where you could be Catholic or Protestant and she would not kill you. She was like, you know what, love. Let's just love religion. Just be a good person. I don't care. I actually buried Mary next to her sister Elizabeth. They have a side-by-side grave, and what's crazy is Elizabeth's grave is like this huge monument of how wonderful of a queen she was, and Mary's grave is like this little black slab of marble, and there's no monument. It's so little and minute. Like, Elizabeth's grave just overshadows her. And in fact, they wrote on Mary's grave, Bloody Mary, she is considered like a loser among royalty. I mean, with a big L. So it is said that her jealousy, her revenge, her hatred extends into the afterlife. I mean, she killed people and she's not done. She's not happy, and never was, and that she was never at peace, and so she continues to haunt people to this day. So let me know if, you know, in the comments, if you've ever played this game, if you've played it, if you've seen anything. So that is the story of Mary of England, Bloody Mary, and how she became one of the worst, most evil women of all of history, and how she continues to haunt people to this day. So let me know in the comments if you've ever played this game, if you've ever tried it, if you've seen anything, or, you know, if you want to talk to me about a different origin of this urban legend, that's fine too. Joining me today. I hope it was a good Monday for you and a good start to your week. I hope I helped out a little bit, you know, with paranormal, ghost, urban legends. It's always a good Monday when you have that. All right, so I will see you again on Friday. I've got a few more videos to upload for you guys about what's been going on at my house. Some crazy stuff as always, and I will see you on Friday. Bye.